As I've mentioned before, the schedule for videos would be a bit off and a bit all over the place just because I'm going to uni now and everything. I apologize for that, so this one's kind of late. And as well, my depression has just been coming back and it hasn't been very nice, and that's really what brought me to this topic. One of the best ways, in my opinion, to kind of give yourself a perspective on where you're going from a more outside view is to kind of document where you are at your lowest point. And then when you're going around and doing things and you're not really sure where you're going, or if people are calling you out on something and you don't understand why, go back to your lowest point and then take a look, because honestly I think that's one of the best ways to do it. It kind of shows you where you are when you have nothing and what you look like. So it knocks you off of the high pedestal that you're going on, because it can really harm you to do that in terms of ego. Now, I haven't really been paying attention to any of this drama that's been happening in whether you want to call it a community or not. I don't really care what you want to call it. And I know kind of what's happening, but I don't really care either. I make videos and I find them interesting. And I do what I can for awareness, and that's really it. I don't want to be somebody. I don't want to be a figurehead. I'm just somebody who makes videos and hopes that people find them interesting. But what I've been noticing a little bit is a couple of things. Some people, when your channel grows big enough, it doesn't become you anymore. You kind of become what your username is instead of you. Instead of John Smith, who likes to make videos, your channel name 220 or whatever the fuck. You don't really become you anymore. And I think one of the best ways to rekindle what you were is to go and look at your videos, your older ones, where you first started, where you had nothing but a phone camera and a couch that you didn't even get to sit on. Just go look at what you looked like, what your eyes looked like, what you were talking about, and how eager you were to talk about it. Because that was you, that wasn't a brand. You didn't have a following back then, you didn't really do anything, you were just you. And you were just using your channel as a kind of dumping ground. And you were really passionate about it, because that's all that you were running on, just that. You didn't really make money off it or anything. And don't give me that shit about how it's cringy. I know it's cringy. I think I'm cringy now, and I'm not even in the future with better equipment or anything. I hate watching my own videos. I have poor self-esteem. I have no self-esteem. So don't give me that shit about how everything's a joke and you just want to laugh it off. If somebody is telling you that you need to get yourself checked and you need to look at yourself and see where you're going, and the only way to do that is to look at who you are and what you've lost, then go back and watch them. Don't give me that shit about how embarrassing it is. Because I know that whatever happened to you and whatever intentions that you've had that have turned sour over whatever you've done, how corrupted that you've gotten, there's still that little bit of you that you locked away somewhere, screaming and telling you that what you're doing is stupid. And the only way to get that and to right what you've done is to go and look at some of your older content and remember what you started out with. That part of you, that dead horse isn't dead. No matter how many times you tried to beat it, it's not dead. Your conscience, as far as I'm aware, just doesn't die out that much for most people. And really, I think that's what I'm trying to do now. I don't really have that much now. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe something's going to happen to me or something really bad happens, and the only thing I have left is to cling to a channel with some numbers, and then maybe I end up going in a direction where I don't like it or something. Because let's face it, we're all human, we don't know. And the only way to, I guess, go back to where you were meant to go is to kind of look at a message from your past self, where you didn't have anything. And that's really what it is. It's a reminder. Whenever I get a diary and a calendar, at the back of the diary on the last page, which is usually the January 1st of the next year. So this one has a 2018 1st of January at the back. At my lowest point, which was probably November last year, I sat down and I wrote a whole massive page about what I was doing, what the room looked like, what the weather was, really into detail. And I kind of wrote a message to myself saying just some things about wondering what next year's going to be and what your mindset's going to be. You know, talking to yourself like that. I've always done that. because I know that it's always just a good thing to check what your perception is and how it's changed. It's the best way to rekindle who you are, because that fundamental thing of who you are doesn't change. It might be disguised by something, but it doesn't really change through your writing or through your videos. You always kind of see that. And if you've lost it along the way, the best way to get it back is to see that. And in the same way that I could get this and tell a friend about it and tell them to throw it at me and to make me read it if I ever go in a direction where I'm losing my mind. In the same way, making something like this, if I ever went off in a direction, maybe 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 2 years from now, on a channel, having a video like this on the channel that people can link to you of something that you've said to show you, remember yourself, look at what you've done, will kind of help, at least I hope so. Because of just apologizing and keeping on going if you've done something wrong is the only real way to keep going. If you double down, you're not going to do anything. Maybe you've gotten into some sort of contract that you shouldn't have taken that you didn't realize, and you're not really a bad person, but the only thing you can do now is double down and keep going, and you shouldn't have done that. Or at least you think that's the only way because you're scared of having to confront yourself. Or maybe you made a promise years ago to yourself to be a certain way, but then now you're just caught up in the chaos of everything that you just want everything to burn because you find that amusing. Or maybe now you just make videos for the sake of making them. Maybe you just write articles for the sake of writing them, and you didn't really remember what it was like to actually be passionate about that. So everything you say is just meaningless and generic to you because you've lost that actual ability to enjoy thinking about them. Maybe what applies to you is you've been staring too long into the abyss. Maybe you've been hunting monsters for too long. All that sort of quote, you know where that goes. And maybe the best thing for you to do if you've gotten into those situations would be to leave. And then go somewhere where you're not connected to any of this and then actually question what you're doing. Because if what you're doing is something you're not happy with anymore, then go and find something else. But if it is, then you need to come back and you need to deal with it. And you can't just blame it on someone else. And the best way for you to realize that is for you to have something that you can check yourself for. So you don't have an ego if you have an audience that's too big. So you don't take something and sign a contract that you shouldn't have because you didn't look it up properly, or they tricked you into doing it. Or so you just completely start trash talking and shit posting on everything, and you forget the reason that you originally started talking about this stuff. I know it's a cheesy saying that just makes you cringe internally, but check yourself before you wreck yourself is really something that is relevant. And the best way for you to do that is to look at yourself. The best person that can talk to you is past you. And the reason that I'm talking, I guess, to my future self like this is, in this tone, I'd say, is you can't handle this with kitty gloves. You can't say, well, I'll just handle it really quietly and softly. No, if you're gonna treat other people harshly, then you have to treat everybody else that way. That's just the way it is. I didn't really mention this before. After being scarred by the stuff that I talked about in that Hidden in Plain Sight video, after growing up with depression and anxiety and not understanding it, after being pushed into feminism, not understanding what it was, and being forced to think with a mindset that I didn't know was not helping me, I wasn't the best person. I had a view of people that was just, they were just there so that you could knock them over or do something with them. They weren't really people, they were just things. And because of that, I did toy with a lot of people. I didn't care that much about people. And because they didn't know me, they didn't know what I was about, they didn't know what I'd been through, there was no excuses there. They just reacted like normal people. And that was the thing that I needed to just snap out of it and say, hey, maybe you've been growing up wrong. And if I'd been handled with kitty gloves, maybe that wouldn't have happened. I know that wouldn't have happened. I would have been up here lacy green right now. Because I know that they just have this hug box around them. Everyone handles them with kitty gloves. They just have this thing where they shut themselves off like that from really valuable information that could have made them better people. Because at the back of their mind, they have that original version of themselves that is just yelling at them and telling them, you have a conscience still. And they know that, and they're terrified of that, and they're terrified how they're going to feel, because they've driven themselves into this hole that they can't get out of. And I don't even know if it's too late to change their minds or not. So, as long as you have that reminder, even if you put it on your channel where other people can go and link it to you over and over again until you realize it if something goes wrong, or if you have a diary where you just write stuff in it in order to remind yourself of who you are no matter what would happen, because you don't know what's going to happen. It's just better to have something. Because if you forget who you are, whatever message that you're fighting for is basically dead. because you're just now this person who's in it for something else. You're in it for the money, you're in it for the popularity, you're in it for everybody looking to you for every single answer, for the arbitrary number of likes that you get on your posts or something. You're not really in it for whatever it was that you sought it out to be. And then your own ethics, morals, they all crumble under that. And then it makes you as bad as the people you're trying to fight. And no, as I've said before, I don't really pay attention to drama, so if you think that I'm referring to some people in particular, I'm not really. I'm just kind of parroting some of the stories that have been going around and showing them as examples of incidents that could happen, I guess. And that's just sincerely what I'm saying. I'm not trying to wink, wink, nudge, nudge, or give you any sort of snide remarks about it. That's just the way it is. This is just a reminder and advice. If you ever want to go down a road like this, or if you ever want, well, you don't know exactly what you'll end up like in the future, remind yourself, leave something, and don't be afraid to be a bit harsh with yourself. Because that's really the only way that you're going to get yourself back. And that's really what this is. At my lowest point on this channel, at the worst that I've ever felt, I leave something with a message so that if I go off in any direction further on the channel, whatever happens to me, I have this to show at my highest point. Maybe my highest point is not my highest point. Maybe it's something that I've been unhealthily feeding upon and attached to, and it wasn't really what I intended and it was harming me. Then this would show me that I need to check what's happening in my life. So to any people out there who think that that arbitrary number of theirs is something that makes them better than other people, or maybe they've made a mistake and they want the hug box and they've started to retreat into it and they don't want to admit that they're wrong, watch your older videos. And if you had good intentions from the start, then you would have seen that within yourself, and hopefully there's something left that you can bring out to remind you of what's good and remind you what to do. Because the last thing that I want to see is someone with good intentions just becoming a bad person and not even knowing that they have become one until it's too late. So the videos that I'm making will be a bit out of schedule. They'll kind of be just random when I come up with one that I want to do. Also because I have some new stuff that I'm getting. Because I'm interested in film and music. I actually write some music, but I have never showed anyone. So I decided to get some stuff, like a condenser mic, and I got a camera. It's not as good, but it's something. And those things, because I use them for other purposes as well, I'll be able to get to know them better so that I can use them for this channel, so you won't have to hear me in this really horrible audio. It just takes me a while because I've never used a condenser microphone before. I've never had to get a mixer and all those cables, and I kind of got a hang of it now, but I'll need some more time. I've also been waiting for my mixer, but this is exactly what this was. This was just, I guess, a reminder, a kind of a reminder of something, like a prediction that I know I'm gonna need this at some point, because everybody does. And maybe it's a reflection for anyone. It's a reflection that you can look at yourself when you're watching this, because maybe something I've said will lead you along the right path that you've been straying from recently, or will allow you to actually try and do something that was a dream of yours that other people talked you down from. But just to remember where you've come from. So yeah, this channel's not going to have the best schedule, but it's not going to be like I suddenly won't make a video for an entire 2 weeks and you won't hear from me. I'm definitely going to make stuff, it's just that it's going to be published at different dates probably. And if I'm suddenly just not on camera for a little while, it's just because I'm trying to get used to all of this audio stuff and this equipment, so bear with me. I also, as I said before, songwriting. I make music, I've mentioned it sometimes, and as well I've mentioned my writing sometimes, and I'm gonna put a few things up on this channel in the future. I have songs about awareness for like problems that men face and stuff, and I think using that song is a kind of way to show awareness, or just communicating instead of me coming up here and being all grim and disappointing and making you depressed about the world and all of the stuff that SJWs do or whatever. I can just make a story and then communicate my ideas that way, so it'd be a bit more fun. But another thing, I'm gonna have my first week of university, and I was wondering, since I'm just really naive about this stuff, I've never been there before, I don't know what the fuck is going on there, and it's not one of those universities that has been in it's not one of those universities that has just been up there in the public eye because of all protests or anything. It's a really quiet place. So if me doing videos every now and then, kind of checking up on university and telling you guys exactly how far any ideological infestation has gone within there, I think that would be a really refreshing look at what's happening outside of all the sensationalized just riots and all that sort of stuff. Just a relatively quiet university. Because if you look at it, all of the ones at the protests and stuff, that's terrible, but they're not actually that many. I mean, I know, a few is too many. You shouldn't have those sorts of things going on. You shouldn't have brainwashed kids protesting at uni and stuff. But it's not that many. There are a lot of universities that are just quiet places, and they just go about normally, and you don't really hear how far the infestation has gone with them. So I think having that kind of perspective would be something that I could do. I just want to know if you're interested in that. This was a kind of weird video, but it had to be done, because I am planning on keeping this channel way into the future, because I've met some wonderful people in the comments, I've made some good friends with people, and I never thought that that would happen. So I'm still gonna stick around because it is something that I'm passionate about, but I needed to do this.